What's up, Simonics, and welcome back to a new quick win. Today we're tackling a topic that I wanted to do a video on for quite some time, and that is an app introduction. So we know how to present an intro slides, but sometimes you want to have these little tool tips across your application that highlight certain areas of the application. And I finally settled on one package just to give it a try. It's called ngx-joyride. There are a lot of other packages, most commonly intro.js or Shepherd. They all kind of work, but I felt with this package it's working quite well with Angular. So we will integrate the package, build a cool app introduction tour for our Ionic application, and in the end we will be able to highlight different areas of the application and even highlight elements on different pages as some sort of navigation is happening in the background. We will be able to use custom templates to modify the UI of the package, so I really enjoyed working with this package. If you want to see the full code of this tutorial, make sure to check out the link below, available for all Ionic Academy members, and if you're not yet a member, make sure to check it out, ionicacademy.com. So let's do this and build a cool app introduction. Alright, so let's kick off our application by starting a blank new Ionic application, and the only thing we need for this quick win is the ngx-joyride package. Maybe we want to take a quick look at the package. It looks like this: Angular Joyride, a library built entirely in Angular. So that's what actually got quite a few stars compared to the others. They all got basically the same amount of stars, and it's quite easy to get started. So let's implement it. First step is to add it to our app module by calling joyride module for root. That's the first part. But whenever you want to use this package in one of your lazy loaded packages, your lazy loaded pages, like the tab 1 module, so we got the tabs interface in that one, we also have to edit joyride module and now call for child instead. We can also do this on the tabs module, because we will later try to integrate different pages as well. And let's add it to the tab 2 module as well. Okay, that looks good. Tabs module can be closed, tab 1 module can be closed. Also, I don't think we need the sidebar now anymore. So with that in place, let's take a look at what we need to do. Can we make this a bit bigger? We basically need to add these directives, the joyride step, to a component on our page. Maybe we'll just copy this for a quick demo. So we will add this one, and then we have to inject the joyride service. Can copy this over to our constructor. Doesn't really matter if we use read only or not. There we go. And well, let's just do it within our ng on init. Or let's do another function. Let's call this one start tour. And within, we're gonna call this dot joyride service start tour. And we're gonna pass in some options. So let's create those options somehow. And we're gonna add const options of the type joyride. Do we get this somewhere? Joyride options. That import looks kind of horrible. I'm not sure if that's gonna work, but let's give it a try. Should be fine. All right. If we check out the joyride options, we see most important is steps. Everything else is basically optional. So first of all, we start with steps. This should be an array of strings. And from what I know, we need to simply add first step and second step, what we've defined in there. So first step and second step. All right, let's give this a quick try. We'll bring this to the side, and then, okay, we don't have a button to start our fun here. So let's add ion button, expand full. Click start tour. Start. Okay, now we got a button to trigger this, and let's see. Okay, that works quite good. Only that we don't got anything. The reason is we haven't passed the options to our start tour call. Let's do this once again. And oh, it starts automatically because I've added it to ng on init. Maybe also adding it to ng on init wasn't very smart, as we see the position is kind of out of place, but that one works pretty good. Let's try it again. Now it works a lot better. So we can go between those different steps, and that's basically the whole idea of this package. Now, we want to make this a lot more complicated because there are a few options that I want to present you. So let's dive into this. The first thing I want to define is, as we've seen before, we actually need to define a text, and that was the title as well, and the title for a joyride step. Well, let's just from now on call it step. So instead of having all the text in there, I think it's a bit smarter to have like an array or an object with your strings. Perhaps you might even get this from your backend, but then you can easily retrieve the information from here and don't have all the steps in your HTML. I feel like that's, I just don't want to have it in there. Okay, let's go to our Ion header. And let's start by adding a new joyride step, and we're gonna say this is step 1. And we're gonna take for our text, using the brackets because we're reading from an object, step content at the position 0. Okay, great. That should work if we specify the right step for our tour. So step 1 goes into this one. Let's see, the new step works. Your navigation bar. That's great. Let's do a bit more, because we can actually influence how these buttons look like. That is one of the customization options for the Joyride package. And we do it like this. You define custom ng templates, for example, for the previous button, next button, done button, or these are just the template references. We will use them in a second, and then use whatever you want. For example, this is not a standard Ionic button, so instead we're gonna use our own button. We could even just add an icon in here. Maybe we're gonna do this. Let's say Ion icon name, what is the forward? Please let it be forward arrow, something like this. And slot icon only. And then we just need to say, Joyride, please, instead of the regular buttons, use our templates. And we could do it like this. We can set the previous template, the next template, and the done template to the names we've defined down here. If we now check out the task here, the tooltip, we see we at least got a done button. Maybe we should have a second button in here somewhere. I'm gonna add whatever. Let's just quickly add a little div, and we're gonna edit Joyride step 2 just to see the buttons. And then we're gonna add step 2 in here. Sorry if I have some typos today. I got a new keyboard and my hands still need to get used to this. Okay, we got no forward arrow because what's the name? Ionicons for the help. Where is my arrow forward? Is it arrow forward? Arrow, of course, arrow forward, not forward arrow. Forward. Okay, now it should hopefully work. And there we go. Now we got a custom template with our button. We got the Ionic buttons in here, and that's exactly what we wanted to have. Not sure why. Okay, because maybe the div has no content, but we see we have already applied a different template to those buttons. There are also other configurational things that you can set directly here when you start your tour. For example, what you could add to the options is a theme color or to show the counter. So right now we see this 2-2 and now we don't have any counter. Also, we have now changed the color of the buttons to the default Ionic blue. It doesn't look that good with the background. You could even change this, in fact, to the CSS variable, Ion color primary. But from what I've seen, there's a little problem because the backdrop is not taking that color. The buttons do take that color, but the backdrop is not. Perhaps you can set it with some kind of CSS here. That should be the Joyride backdrop. Maybe you could just set the color background. Yeah, maybe you could just set it by CSS instead, then give it a little bit of opacity and you get basically the same effect like we did before. But then you could even use this color. But for now, let's go back to this, and there we go. Okay, so we now understand the Joyride steps, the text, injecting different templates. Let's go a step further and also do a bit more. So here is another card. Where's actually my button to start it? Didn't I add a button to start the tour? Maybe let's just do it again. So here's a new Joyride step 2. We take the text once again from our object, and we now also use the next function, because this is also emitted by the Joyride directive. And on next, we want to set the card visible variable to true. For example, this card content is usually hidden if we have the ng card visible set to false in the beginning. That means if the card visible is false, the Joyride package won't be able to correctly find our element within the DOM. So we could go there. Okay, we actually got only 2 steps right now. But we couldn't access the card content as it's hidden right now. Therefore, we're gonna toggle it with this next, and we will see there are more functions. There's also the done function, which we will add to the last object. So we can easily see on which step we are if we need to prepare anything for an upcoming step. Okay, I called this step 2.5. The step content, we could also use something else. We previously just injected a text or a title, but you could in fact also inject a complete template for the whole step itself, like this. Custom content, maybe show an image, or use some values. Perhaps you have a username object. So username, let's say Simon. Then you could even make the introduction more dynamic. And let's quickly add, that's what I always forget, the new step to the array of steps. Okay, and let's see. Got the navigation bar. We see the card is still collapsed. We now move forward, the card is expanded, and we see our overlay card right here. Okay, those are already a few options, but there's more we can do. I wanted to see how the package behaves if we have elements that are not within the view. So here's another list with a header. We will just give it the step 3. We'll take the text from our step content as well, and then an array of items. And the problem now is, let's remove this for a second. The problem is if you have a button or some kind of element that's maybe not within the view, like this button down here, which will give step 4 and step content 3, it's quite hard for the package to find that button. Actually, it won't work correctly. And therefore, we need to find a way to bring items into view, just like we did before with the next, where we set the card content to visible. Now we need a way to scroll down to my button in case our list here, which you can see the list is quite long and the bottom is actually here. Let's give it a try without scrolling to it. So we add step 3 and step 4. Step 3, step 4. And let's see how this looks. Most likely we see this, we see that, we see the content, we see the list header, and we got this at the bottom, but that's of course not a button. The button is here. And to highlight that button, I simply create a new function that acts as the view child. So we're gonna add a template reference, my button, and then we can easily call this button as a view child and bring it into the visible part of our view. So my button, we want to read the element reference, not really the ion button. That won't be too helpful. And we're going to add a function to scroll into view. I've used this before inside the quick win about manually scrolling a list. Basically, you just call scroll into view on the native element. Behavior can be smooth, but I think on iOS this is actually not working, and this depends where you want to have the item at the scrolled, at the start of the block or at the end. Now we just need to call the scroll view function at the right place, and that is exactly the step before. So this is step 3, this is step 4. And now if we click next on step 3, we would call our scroll into view function. So we got that, and now we have scrolled the view to the bottom and we can show the nice overlay right there. Okay, that's already a nice start. 2 more things that I wanted to show you. Number 1 is using capacitor storage, because usually I assume you want to present this introduction to like once in the beginning. So we can just grab the plugins and the storage from the plugins object. This might be different with Capacitor 3, where you have everything in external packages, so be aware that this part might be a bit different, and you might have to install the Add Capacitor storage plugin. And then within our oninit, we're gonna make this async, and we're gonna grab the stored value, await storage.get key, what was the name? Something like tour key, right? Okay. And if we don't have a stored value that's coming back, we will immediately call the start tour. So we're gonna remove this one. And of course, you could also still leave that option anywhere to manually trigger this. This is really completely independent from the store logic that we have right here. The only thing we might want to watch out for is within the finish tutorial, we should now set the key like this to something. So let's make this async, and then the tour wouldn't appear again. You could also then afterwards show a little alert. So let's inject the alert controller quickly. And then I'm going to copy this over. So just present an alert when we finish the tutorial. And if you forgot how to use it, or we were too fast, it is by using the done function. So we got the next function, we got the done function. This package is pretty cool in terms of all the functions that we can use. Done, and there we go. Enjoy using our app, and you're done with the tour. So that was the first thing I wanted to show you as a little addition. Now the question you might have is, what about different tabs? Perhaps you have something within your tab 2 page. Let's say you have a really super simple tab 2 page like this, and you have one step outside with whatever text, whatever you want to add. And also on the tabs page, let's try to highlight the functionality of our tab bar by adding, first of all, to the whole tab bar object, the joyride step. Don't add it to Ion tabs, it's not gonna work. I tried to figure this out before. And then also on one specific tab button. So we got step outside 2, 3 and step outside 1. Now the interesting thing is how we call those steps. Let's say we wanna call step 1 on our page, that should be fine. And then we wanna call the step outside 1. Now the problem is, of course, how should our library actually find that step? We go there, we still got this. So we can't really access step outside 1, and I guess it's just jumping to the next one because it's not considering it, it can't find the element. So what we need to do is add and then the URL to the page where that object is. In our case, it's simply tabs tab 2. So we're gonna add tabs tab 2, and once we are on that page, we could even call the step outside. No, in fact, since we're using the parent steps, it's no problem, but step 2 is again on the first page. So if we were on step 2, we now need to make sure that in the step afterwards, if we once again change pages, we need to go back to tabs tab 1. And because the other steps were on the tabs element, we can just call them from wherever we want. So we could call this right here already, step 2. Then we go back to the initial page and then we call step 3. No big deal. Let's see, hope that it works. So we go here, we go to the tab 2, the object is highlighted, we continue and present the navbar, we go back to tab 1 and we highlight this specific tab. And then it just continues with the rest of the action that we have defined. So now we're able to build a really complex introduction to our app. Not only within one page, we could have navigation to other pages just with this little syntax, which I quite enjoy. I guess it's just using the Angular router in the background. It works quite good inside the preview here. The only problem I encountered was on mobile devices, especially iOS this time. Usually the problems are on Android. This time the problem was on iOS. I found the problem somewhere inside the community as well. And what they recommended was changing a function. So in fact, they changed it in all the output files of the ngx-joyride bundle, and I did the same. So you basically need to change, maybe we can go into one of those functions quickly to show you what's going on. So you need to change within the get element fixed top. You basically need to change this to get element absolute top. You can either copy this code over there or just call the function, whatever you prefer, and then do it in all of these files. Of course, I already hear you screaming, you really don't want to change the node modules. Yeah, you really don't want to do this. Your colleague is going to check out the project and is encountering problems. You have a CI server, nothing will work. So unless this is fixed at some point within the package, I would recommend you just fork the repository, apply the changes in those files and use your fork version. So everyone can just install your fork with the little fix, because you can do it for testing. For testing, I also did it and changed the node modules folder, but generally you really don't want to change your node modules folder. But once you get this, it works quite good. Sometimes the overlay is a bit out of place, or right here I got this down arrow for really I have no idea why. So this might require a bit of additional bug fix, but overall I was really satisfied that I could implement all these custom templates and change it to really match the UI. You could also specify the CSS. So that's our app introduction with ngx-joyride for Ionic. Alright, I hope you enjoyed today's quick win on building an app introduction. I really enjoyed working with ngx-joyride. I don't know how well the other packages work. Perhaps just give them a try if you're not satisfied with ngx-joyride, but so far I really found this package to be very helpful and working quite good with both Ionic on the web and inside a mobile application. Once again, if you're not yet a member of the Ionic Academy, check it out, link below, ionicacademy.com, the place to learn everything Ionic, where this quick win is hosted and 50 plus courses and a community and a lot more. Go check it out. I hope you enjoyed the video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel for more videos, and I will catch you next time. So happy coding, Simon.